Hello, everyone, and welcome to In 15 with Rinchin, a show where top experts share their most practical advice in 15 minutes. My name is Rinchin, and I'm going to be your host. Today, we have a very special guest and one of my most favorite people that LinkedIn has introduced to me, Ali Merchant. Ali has spent remarkable 16 years guiding teams with precision and purpose. His impact stretches globally, having trained hundreds of managers and coached countless leaders from grassroots to the C-suite. But Ali's mission extends beyond boardrooms and office walls as he's passionate about empowering managers like you to thrive and not just survive. As a visionary behind the All-In Manager Masterclass, Ali understands the frustration of witnessing exceptional managers struggle due to lack of support from their organizations. And this groundbreaking masterclass, which by the way I am also taking, is available on demand, tailored to fit your schedule and needs. Today, Ali and I will be talking about the role of a manager, his key learnings about great and not so great managers, and his special advice to all the managers out there. So without further ado, let's welcome Ali Merchant. Hi Ali, and welcome to In 15 with Rinchin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome. I am super excited to be here.
So as we know, Ali's expertise lies in managing teams and their expectations as managers. Most of his courses and his LinkedIn posts are for managers and for them to understand how to best deal with their teams, keep them motivated, keep them doing well. A lot of emphasis is on how to best have the one-on-one conversations with the team members. So, Ali, out of all the LinkedIn posts, each of one, which is extremely valuable,
Sure.
what are some of the key challenges that you often see within the teams that the manager is not able to navigate?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I'm really excited to be here, and I have written almost 2,000 posts. So it's going to be difficult to kind of narrow it down a little bit, but I'll tell you, as a manager, having done this for almost 2 decades, one of the hardest things that I would face is working with a superstar. And this is a great employee. They have a lot of great ideas, but not all of their ideas are great. Just like not all of my ideas are going to be great, right? So how do you deal with someone, or how do you react to someone's idea in such a way that they don't feel let down and they keep bringing up more ideas, right? Because you want to extract great content from them, but sometimes you have to tell them, that might not work. So how do you kind of balance that little area? And that's really tricky. And Rinchin, it's tricky because we don't really teach a lot of that, in books, courses, etc. So I'm happy to share some of the mistakes I've made and how I've learned to navigate that. Would that be helpful?
It's always great to learn from failures so that
Eh,
we don't repeat them.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's always great, especially when it comes to communication. I think that would be a great start.
Right. It's funny. It's always fun to learn from someone else's failures. So we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna put me in the hot seat. So I'll tell you this, and we're not gonna name names here. One of my favorite employees, she had this incredible idea. We were running learning and development, and she was one of our trainers, and she had this incredible idea of launching this course. I thought that course would never work, and instead of listening to her idea, um, I just shot it down. I said, no, it's never going to work. And I went with a long list of reasons why it wouldn't work. Now it's almost been 12 years since that incident. And honestly, while I was doing that, I thought I was being helpful by stopping her from making a mistake. And the fact is that I was doing the opposite, which is I was demotivating her by not listening to what she was trying to tell me. So the first takeaway here, and I'm going to get really tactical, is as soon as you're ready to say, no, that's not going to work. I want you to just pause. Okay, that's very simple advice. It's common sense, but it's not common practice. The first thing I want you to do is really pause. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to optimize for curiosity over judgment. Judgment, in my case, was this is never going to work. And here are the
Yeah.
reasons why it's not going to work. Curiosity is completely different. Curiosity is, you know what? In my mind, I know it's not going to work. But what if it does work, right?
Yeah.
There's a subtle difference here. So, how do you become curious? You become curious by asking a simple question, which is help me understand this a little bit more. Help me understand. Another question you could try is I'm curious. How do you think this is going to work? The third one is tell me more. So it's like HIT. I know you want us to be tactical, right? So the first thing I said was pause. The second thing you do is listen. The third thing that you do is you optimize for curiosity over judgment by saying, help me understand, I'm curious, or tell me more. Now, here's what's going to happen. When the person starts to explain what's going on, you are giving them time and you're giving them space to share their explanation. Now, after you've heard their explanation, and hopefully you've really heard their explanation, and then if you say no or let me think, your no is going to land softly versus with a thud. When you come to me and
Yeah.
I say, no, it's never going to work. But hey, you didn't even give me a chance to explain that, right? So it's a
Yeah.
very simple way of pausing, of listening, of asking a question, and then responding. Let me say one more thing, Rinchin, and this is going to be helpful for your readers. I was on a coaching call with someone else today, and we were talking about the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is, no, it's not going to work. Responding is me taking a step back and asking, you know what? I've hired extremely smart, extremely capable people. Let me hear them out first. And then we move in this direction. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you your employee is just going to be great. They're going to be happy. They're going to be disappointed. And unfortunately, when you're in a position of leadership, you will disappoint people. You will have to do that because not all ideas are great. But there is a way of softening the blow a little bit by staying a little curious. And this idea of pausing, listening, and asking HIT, the hit question, is going to help your employee engage. And hopefully they can share more of their ideas later on as well.
Absolutely. That's a great takeaway for everyone to just respond rather than react and be curious rather than dismissive about the ideas of the team members. One thing that I picked up as well from the conversation was when towards the end you mentioned that in the position of leadership, you would sometimes disappoint your people. And a lot of good managers and good leaders sometimes feel bad about that disappointment. So as a manager, how do you yourself manage that disappointment?
That's a great question. I might make you laugh, and I use this all the time. If you disappoint people and you don't feel disappointed, you might be a psychopath. Okay?
I
That
agree.
that's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay for you to feel disappointed. And the reason why you might feel that way, and I can only speak for myself here, is because you care. You
Yeah.
care for the other person. But let's get a little tactical here. Let's assume someone comes to you and says, I am ready for this promotion, right? And they're excited. They've put in the work, but you think they're not ready. You have to tell them that they're not ready. Any good manager wants their employees to succeed. You would rather want the person to know, oh man, you're getting an incredible promotion versus saying, oh, you're not ready. If you find yourself in that specific scenario, and trust me, the longer you manage, the more you're going to be in that scenario, is I want you to first tell yourself that you are doing this because you care for your employees' long term success. See, I'm going to tell you another thing. It's lazy for me to promote you if you're not ready because I don't want to have that difficult conversation. It's
Yeah.
very difficult for me to have that conversation. But if you have that conversation with honesty, with clarity, and by letting the other person know that you're in their corner, that you care for them, and you know they can get there, but they're not ready yet, again, it's going to disappoint them, but it's going to disappoint them softly. And it's going to disappoint you as well. But you know how you can overcome that disappointment? Help them get there. Help them find a win. Help them move from point A to point B. I have a lot of stories, so I'm going to share the story with you. One of the greatest bosses I've ever had. Again, not going to name him. Not going to embarrass him. If he listens to this, he'll know. So he hired me. I was, I think, the third or fourth employee in our San Francisco office. And small office, out of 4 people, 3 got promoted. I didn't. I was the only one that didn't get promoted. I was crushed. I was just crushed. So I go into his office and I tell him, I'm like, what's going on? I'm really upset. And and it's been a long time, so I don't clearly exactly remember what he said, but he said something to the effect of, I expect more out of you. I expect more from you. And although you worked hard, I know you have more. So I want to
Yeah.
help you get there, but I just want to be honest and tell you you're not ready yet. So, Rinchin, I don't know if you're realizing, but I'm using the word yet a lot here because
Yeah.
yet tells me I might not be ready right now, but I'll get there. And a great leader will help you get there. That's the difference between someone who just doesn't care about the process and someone who truly is invested in their people to have a disappointing conversation, but help them get to their destination.
That's an amazing story. And I like the whole point that you make around you're not there yet, you know. It's present tense, but future looks promising.
There you go.
And and when it comes to managers, a lot of people have these great conversations, but they don't follow up.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So they probably would pique more questions out of curiosity. They might even support people with such conversations. But then when it comes to following up around that, it's usually a miss because, again, you get into the daily hustle and bustle of your work and you
sure,
completely forget about it. So,
sure.
what would be your thoughts and ideas on how to best go back to things like these and make
Yeah,
sure that the promises that you made in that moment of vulnerability for your employees,
yeah.
you keep up to it?
First of all, you're asking such great questions. You know that there's this phrase, it's not mine, I don't know who said it, but it's something to the effect of, it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what the other person hears.
Yeah.
And just because you've said it doesn't mean it's done, right? You
Yeah.
have to follow up. You have to figure out if the person has truly heard you. They've internalized your expectations. And the only way that can happen is if you set, and we're getting tactical, is you schedule a follow-up meeting, which is, we spoke about, boom, right?
Yeah.
We've had a week or 2 weeks since then. What is your plan? Or is there anything that I can clarify for you? Is there anything I can unblock for you as well, right? So follow up, especially in the context of feedback, is extremely important. Now, one final story is, I used to get a lot of constructive feedback, and I'm grateful for it now. Back then, it would sting a little bit, but one of my bosses would do this a lot. He is extremely demanding person, and he would not hold back. If you messed up, he would tell you you messed up, right? But you know what else he would do? Like clockwork, the next week, I'd get a little message, a little email from him saying, "Hey, let's follow up on last week's conversation." And I'm like, "Oh God, he's going to give me another lecture." But it was kind of different. It was like, "Hey, listen, I know we had a hard conversation. I just want to remind you that I'm in your corner. Okay? I want to
Yeah.
help you. I want to help you move from A to B. So how are you feeling about this?" But you know what else he would do, Rinchin, which was fascinating? And I've never had anyone do that with me. Maybe that's why I think about it so often, is he would ask me, "Hey man, like, how can I give you better feedback next time?" If he could tell I
Oh,
was
wow.
sensitive or I was raw, I was upset, he would get me to give, he would have me give him feedback on his feedback. So we would keep getting better. So I want to tell you
Wow.
something. I want to tell you something that a lot of people have on LinkedIn have asked me, but I've never shared this with me. So this is kind of fascinating. Some people, so I've used this phrase a lot: be tough on the problem and tender on the person. It's not my phrase. I've heard it somewhere else, but when I talk about that phrase, which is be really tough on the problem, which is tell people you're not ready yet, but be tender on the people. Remind them that I will help you get there. Right? That's what
Yeah.
my boss was doing. He was tough on the problem, which is you dropped the ball here, or you could have
Yeah.
done a better job here. But let's get you the training. Let's get you the coaching. Let's get you the support because I still believe in you. Tough on the problem, tender on the person. And that's why these people, they kind of live in my head rent free because I've learned so much from these difficult bosses. And that's why we're talking about this. So I hope that was helpful.
It was extremely helpful. I know we are at time, but I would like to thank you, Ali, for such amazing takeaways for people. In 15 with Rinchin is for one takeaway, one valuable takeaway from the experts, but we've gotten so many out
I
of it.
messed up. I messed up here. That's what happened. So,
No, this is great. And each of these are the takeaways that you can implement right away.
right.
The best one for me so far was, the whole thing of understanding one, how do you manage the disappointment better, which you talked about, curiosity, not being dismissive. But even better was that follow up on the feedback.
Mm.
That's something that not a lot of managers do. They do try to be soft in that moment, but then what do you do next is extremely important. And thank you for sharing that with us. I am so grateful to have this conversation with you today. Thank you, Ali.
I had a blast. You asked you asked really good questions, and yeah, we couldn't stick to one takeaway, but that's what happens when you get me. I'm gonna talk a lot. So, but yeah, this was a blast, and happy to hop on anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ali.
Yep, you got it.